You mentioned at the very start of the interview, Miles, your interview with Dr. Rowney Kilder. And one of the other things that she has spoken about is mind control. Because she believes that people are being taken and they are being programmed for a variety of nefarious purposes. And you've started looking into this, and you have interviewed people who claim to be mind control victims. One of them in particular is a guy called Dave Marrow.
My name's David Marrow. Basically, I have a story to tell about my experiences. Used to be called Manderson, comes from the Scottish name Manderson, Scottish royalty. Goes back to Scottish royalty and Egyptian royalty. Used to live on the Orkney Islands near Cave Ness, where the heraldry of the Manderson family was.
So how did you get there? What brought you to the Orkney Islands?
Yeah, I was taken there by a guy called Chris Marrow. He, bit of a nefarious character in his own way, took me there after being adopted and fostered. I was born in the Royal Berkshire Hospital, lived in Newbury for a bit, went to the Orkney Islands.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about this guy?
This is getting into a very, very deep, very sinister, dark subject. It's when we're talking about taking children before the age of 5. And this is also brings in James Casbolt. And again, people would say that these people are, they're out of their heads. Well, if you've gone through this kind of atrocious torture, it's called trauma-induced mind control. What they basically do is, before the child's mind is properly formed physically or biophysically or biologically formed, they shock through pain and torture the human brain into absolute blinding.
Neil Sanders spoke about this when he was on. Trauma-based mind control.
Trauma-based.
So trying to create and fracture you into more different
in other words, you
personalities.
create a situation where the brain is in so much pain, the brain actually shuts that part of the brain off and generates a different experiential existence for itself. And that's what they want to do, because once you've done that, you've created a whole new compartment in the mind, which you can then actually activate and then program, and then you switch. They generate a technique to switch them on and off. Now, that's part of the Monarch mind control programming, which has been used and demonstrated.
Monarch, and that's
Monarch.
You believe that to be British military?
It's CIA. It's well known. It was done on a main top model in the States, where they're able to mind control her, and it was used as a means of transporting highly sensitive data. Now, the whole point about that is you get ordinary people who've got no connection with military at all or the intelligence services. You switch them on, give them the message, switch them off. They then go to wherever they're going on their normal business, or maybe they don't even know they're on the business when they're active. Deliver the message. The other person at the other end then switches them off. They then go home. They haven't a clue what they've done.
So what you're talking about there is one reason for mind controlling an individual, so that they can carry some information that's in their head and they're not aware of it being there.
Don't know
so they could be
it.
Tortured to hell, and they still wouldn't give the secret away.
And it's very economical. Now, what they've done is they've essentially radically expanded on that whole thing into what we now call the super soldier program.
Right.
So that you can also access biophysical parts of the mind to self-heal. So, for instance, when you get cut very badly, you can use the psychic part of your mind, fully activated and programmed, to actually re-image the wound.
Well, let's stick.
And that's what Dave Morrow was all about.
Right.
That involves ritual child abuse in Scotland, which of course brings in the Holly Creed case and that whole really dark side.
I mean,
of
how many whistleblowers are there to these mind control programs who claim to have been in them?
Well, there's an increasing amount, and this is one of the reasons why Dave Morrow came forward to do that, along with Alistair, was to start getting the message out.
Alistair is a guy who he's featured in your video.
Yes.
And
that involves RAF Culmhead and Burnworthy Manor for where they train the super soldiers. And again, there was a recent BBC programme involving 2 Swedish twins who ran onto the M6 got knocked down by cars and trucks and were able to just get up and complain about it afterwards. That is super soldiers.
Right, okay, so super soldiers. Some people will find this hard to believe, Miles. Just explain, is this someone who's genetically modified at birth, or is this...
Well, this is the thing, that this is one of the things which we, again, connecting with Barry King, is that one of the stories that Barry King was involving about was called the survey done at schools. So there's a detailed survey done with schools and medical records. And again, Bill Newhouse mentions this. Bill Newhouse has got a certain lineage genetically, and this is where certain people with certain sets of genetics are brought into these kind of programs.
I mean, you see, I've watched all of the Barry King material, and I'm still looking for more information, shall we say.
Absolutely. That stuff's going back 15 years now.
Right, right. I mean, I have got a theory on Barry King. But
we had no... This was why when I made the interviews, I made them in such a way that, we're not going to leave too much stuff on the cutting room floor. The idea, let Barry King speak. We then have James Casbolt.
Yeah.
And then James Casbolt connects us with Matt Todd with the magnetic implants. And then it also connects us with Alistair and Dave M. So this story is evolving. And at the moment, it's a story because, I mean, we don't...
Out of all of the, the interviews on mind control, I find Dave Marrow to be the most convincing.
Yeah, he said he wouldn't be able to look at the camera.
Right.
And he described that to the camera. So I had a situation where this guy claims he can hulk out. That's to say he can biophysically make his body so strong that when they actually jump out with his female partner, he was paired with, and again, this pairs up with James Casbolt, with his partner, who's in the research. It's maybe too detailed for now.
But, I mean, let's just stick on
The
Dave
crucial
Marrow.
thing about this is that Dave is talking about fighting an enemy. Why do they need the super soldiers? Now, there seems to be a very wide mark for what is a super soldier.
Just broadly, Miles, they've taken someone and given them mind control.
He was
from a very young age.
Yes,
but then they can take that person, abduct that person, send them on some kind of mission where they will kill people or whatever.
Yeah.
They come back and then they turn back off,
Yeah.
and then they're put back into society, and they don't even know they've done that mission, and it's all done through hypnosis and psychotronics. Now, and they're possibly given, advanced training on that program that they're not actually aware of. So that's the principle of it. But this Dave Marrow he's got implants which give off
there's
radio
frequency
radio
implants
waves
that move.
He's got implants.
And this is
in
where
him.
we come back to.
Let's just concentrate on what Marrow claims and what he said that
Marrow was involved with the Orkney child abuse scandal.
Right. So from a young age he was adopted.
He was adopted. He was selected before birth.
Yeah,
and his mother was essentially
right, and into a military family. And a Freemasonic family.
Yes, and taken up to Orkney Islands.
They went into Orkney, and he has had flashbacks of being used in satanic rituals.
Now,
right?
Yes, but the point is, these guys are still running active program. Now, if you're still running active program, do you believe a word they're saying? But it seems that the active program is saying, hello, we have a weapon system here, which is why that program on the BBC, Madness in the Fast Lane, with those two
the two
twins,
Swedish twins.
This is a clear demonstration of a weapon system in full sight. So with Dave M. and the other guys coming forward, and James Casbolt with all the stuff he's saying, and with all the stuff that Barry King is saying, and all the stuff that Bill Newhouse said. Bill Newhouse actually said, Miles, it's like somebody like you that we were giving this information out. This is information that they're not, we're whistleblowing. They're active, they're in active programming, and they're telling us about something which is a major weapon system, programming human beings for work or some kind of thing off plan, or to fight an enemy they need a super soldier for.
All right.
Dave M. claims he can literally be dropped out of an aeroplane into the theatre without a parachute and go straight into theatre.
Right. And this guy, Alistair, who you on one of your interviews you have on camera,
he's a friend of Dave's.
He's a friend of Dave Marrow's.
Yeah.
All right. And he's done research into mind control programs and
he describes the Monarch program, and on the video that I've got with Dave, I let Alistair actually described the whole Monarch program and a top beautiful model that was used in America. And again, when they choose a public icon, like a top #1 beautiful woman, a model, and they can just say, right, we've mind controlled her to do things, it's them laughing in our face. We can choose your best and finest and then just do what the hell we like with them. And then this is obviously the book Transformation of America with Kathy O'Brien. It discusses this.
I think Neil Sanders was talking about that. Is it Lindsay Lohan, one of them?
Could be, I don't know.
Right, maybe.
Again,
He's mentioned two singers, American females.
There's a lot of them
who
in
he
the
thinks are
American
mind
country
control.
music
He thinks
program.
are mind control.
Yes,
victims.
Kathy O'Brien mentions this in the country music thing. And talking about mind control, my friend or my colleague who was involved with Energy 106 in Belfast, who was abducted 4 times, he also was given a lot of cooperation from certain producers in Nashville. And again, this is me running a pirate station, running a megawatt into Belfast until 2005, and we're let do it.
Right.
Now, that means somebody somewhere is saying, you're allowed to do this.
Right.
Now, what we did with KISS FM in '88 is what we cracked Matrix. We did a thing which Radio Caroline was doing, that there was something that was involved with Caroline and the sub-programming of the music. Again, that leads us to the Montauk Project, and again, mind control.
So you think there's something in the carrier wave of the radio signal which is doing things to people's minds without them.
Thought.
So
And that's where we deal with the BBC transmitters and these black artifacts.
But if you were running a pirate radio station, which you were,
I've run a lot of them.
How
I'm a bad boy.
How have the evil authorities managed to add in their signal onto your carrier wave?
That's when we come up with the scuttlers and this black fluidic energy, which I described in Basis 4.
Right. So, is that a piece of technology that
It's something to do with some kind of subspace material. And again, Tom Bearden talks about this as a weapon system in his book Oblivion, I believe, where they generate they're called subspace engines, which they transmit in subspace, and then they come through your computer system or inter some kind of interface system. It could be a television set, and your mind is then used to generate the reality, and they then do the harm. Then,
but you need, in order to convince people of this, Miles, you need something tangible.
It's very heavily described.
Understand.
Yes,
I mean,
they need to read Tom Bearden's book.
Tom Bearden.
Tom Bearden is a retired colonel. He does an awful lot of discussion on zero-point energy, but also on scalar weather warfare. Now, Tom Bearden is a retired military colonel from the United States Army, so he's going to have a strong bias and a strong field of perspective with military operations. But it's in his book Oblivion and a number of other books on radiant energy.
You mentioned earlier, just to change the subject, Matt Todd, who's another one of your interviewees, and one of the clips in that I found quite intriguing was he claims to have been abducted and been implanted, but he wasn't aware of these implants until he started putting a magnet on his body. So this guy, I mean, there's obviously something metallic under his skin.
Well, what happened with Matt Todd was that, again, we're dealing with things in the etheric, out of body. And again, we're talking that one of the crucial things about Rowney Kilder is she went out of body voluntarily.
Yeah, these things are in his body, aren't they?
Well, what happened was he rescued a whole pile of abductees out of cages, and these ETs followed him, and he was able to kill four of the ETs.
Right. He claims.
This is.
I mean, I'm more interested in these.
This is the story.
Physical things in his body.
He was fired at by I think one of the ETs, and they hit him in the lower abdomen.
Right.
Now the point was that when he was then abducted he was seduced by 2 beautiful women, brought into this facility, and the 2 beautiful women, he turned his head, they turned into greys because they were in mind shift. They do is they get you to see. They don't do the shape shifting. They make your mind do it for them.
I've heard this.
They make you see what they want you to see.
Yeah.
Right. So cutting a long story short, again and again with all these cases, we're constantly getting U.S. military personnel involved.
Yeah.
Now this is again the mind control, the aliens, the whole thing is heavily involved with U.S. military, and the underground bases here,
So you're saying these things in his body were part of,
They were
like
put
a
into
bullet
him.
from some weapon? Then,
he was
or-
able to get access to these facilities by physically going out of body,
Right.
in the etheric. One of the things that we're told constantly is if you're in the etheric and you're a ghost, your hand will go through things. It will go through things because you believe it to go through things. But if you're in the etheric, you have physical power. So if you tell yourself you have physical power in etheric, then you can physically lift things, and you're invisible.
Right.
And this again a demonstration. So the point was he was able to physically get into these facilities according to his claims.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened was they fired these implants at him so that it would not allow him back in again.
Right.
And he demonstrated that by putting magnets on them.
Yeah.
And again, I'm just like you in the sense that...
I mean, were it fired at a distance, or was it like
I don't know.
So they've somehow
I don't know. It's
I mean,
described in the interviews.
that has he looked at getting them removed at all, or
No.
I mean, it would be interesting to find out what they are.
Well, it would be if we get the whole scans. Now, the point about this is somebody was scanned. I'm not too sure if it was Dave M. It was only in a hospital in Warminster, and it uses, I think, magnetic resonance imaging.
Yeah.
And they got something using that.
Right.
And again, it's down to the medical, it's down to what they're letting you want to detect. And a lot of this stuff is in a much higher frequency, a resonant frequency much higher than our physical reality. So again, we're dealing with several octaves above the normal physical existence that we would consider ourselves to exist.
All right then, Miles. Well, we've run out of time, but we will screen extracts from your interviews, because some of them are, the information in them is phenomenal.
That's what they're for.
Okay, and thanks very much indeed for coming on board. You've been a
So big, this place.
mind-boggling guest,
It's huge.
and we'll get you beamed back down to planet Earth.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So it just remains for me to say, keep your eyes on the skies, keep your feet on the ground, and tell all your friends about this show.